Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve here, Rake and Profit over at rakeandprofit.com, coming back to you with another video. And in today's video, I wanted to talk about flipping DVDs from eBay to Amazon and talk about what are the, the types of DVDs in terms of like sales rank and popularity that I'm going after. Because there was a comment that had come in on one of my latest videos, pretty much saying like, Steve, why are you going after DVDs that might only be selling once a month or 3 times a month or 10 times a month? And pretty much this person said that they were under the philosophy that they were really trying to target DVDs, maybe other products as well, they didn't mention it, that were selling at least 30 times per month or more. And then they said that they are starting to target items that sell like 25 times a month or more. Well, when it comes to eBay to Amazon flipping, I found that any DVD that you're gonna buy on eBay to flip on Amazon, and if the rank is, I would say, less than 20,000, it's a way higher risk of being a counterfeit and a fake DVD. Now, if you go to a thrift store or a library sale and you find a DVD that's 3,000 rank, 5,000 rank, 10,000 rank, I'm not as concerned because it's most likely a donation from somebody, and you're most likely not gonna be getting like counterfeits and bootleg DVDs at a library sale in a thrift store, right? But when you're dealing with eBay, you're buying from the whole world, right? Nothing's stopping someone from India or China or from anywhere in the world, right? I'm just saying India and China because that's where like a lot of the bootlegs are coming from, specifically with DVDs from my understanding. What's stopping them from setting up an account, getting a VPN, setting up an eBay, store under the US and whatever, right? And selling fakes. It happens all the time. I see it on eBay all the time. So for me personally, and I have a counterfeit guide as well. If you want to check it out down below, it's a DVD prevention guide that shows like pictures of fakes versus real and what to look out for. You can check that out. It's 100% free. But again, when I start going after DVDs from eBay specifically, or from any online site like, Facebook Marketplace, or it could even be like Etsy. I think there's DVDs on there too. It's been a while. Facebook Marketplace. You're just going to run into bootleggers. So that's why I like to go after items that, like, on average, 1 to 15 sales per month, right? Once I start getting up to like 20 sales a month, 25, 30, 40, you're going after the complete series DVDs, and I go after everything new. So if you're going after used, it's probably way less risky, to be honest, because the bootleggers aren't going to be selling used items. So, if you want to go after items that are selling 25, 30, 40 times in the DVD category, used, I don't think a lot of this applies, but I sell new sealed, 100% new. It sells faster. You don't have to check if it works. But again, there's the counterfeit risk. But here's the thing. I've sold probably in the last 5.5 years, like over 10,000 DVDs. When I first started eBay to Amazon flipping, 2021, 2022, that's all I did. I mean, the first 2 years alone, I sold over 10,000 DVDs. Now, over the years, I've gotten into, video games and board games and electronics and all different types of items that I'm sourcing with Replun Catcher. And that's the tool that I use to find all my undervalued DVDs, CDs, books, although I don't do a lot of books anymore, home improvement, garden. I mean, I flip a lot of categories from eBay to Amazon. But here's the thing, okay? You might think if an item sells 25 or 30 times a month that you're gonna sell it so much faster on Amazon, right? Because it makes sense. Like, the item's selling 25 to 30 times. If I have 2 items, right? Item number 1, this is my favorite gum, by the way. Item number 1 is selling 30 times a month. Pretend this is a DVD. And then item number 2, this DVD is selling twice a month, right? Which one's gonna take longer to sell? Which one's gonna sell faster? You're gonna say, well, the one that's selling 30 times a month, of course it is. But what if this listing had 20 competitors on it, right? Selling 30 times a month, but there's 20 competitors on it. And maybe some competitors have 5 in stock, 10 in stock. But what if this DVD, it's only selling twice a month, but there's nobody on the listing, right? It's consistently selling once or twice a month, but nobody's on the listing. What if it's selling 4 times a month and there's only 1 person on the listing? I would argue to say this listing, this product would sell faster because there's less competition. So that's the whole name of the game when it comes to eBay to Amazon flipping with DVDs for me. Yes, I go after a lot of products that sell 1 time a month, 3 times a month, 5 times, 10 times. There are some DVDs that sell 25, 30 times a month that I go after that I've vetted. And again, if you check out the free DVD prevention guide below, I share some of like my rules and principles and, different things that I'm looking out for, right? Because an item's a fast seller and it's a complete series, it doesn't mean that it's a counterfeit. But if the eBay seller's got all stock photos, that's a red flag. If they've got 40, 50 feedback, that's a red flag. If you go into their eBay store and they've got all these fast selling DVDs that are super popular, 5,000 rank, and all those items are gonna make 80, 90, 200% ROI, that's a red flag. If they've got 10 plus available and they've got multiple quantities of everything, super popular, the ROI profits are insane, it's a red flag. So for me personally, in my eBay to Amazon business, for me, I like to keep my risk low, right? And there's no perfect way to keep your account 100% safe selling on Amazon, especially with eBay to Amazon not having invoices. But there's ways to mitigate risk, right? Not going after super popular items, selling 20, 30, 40 times a month, under 10, 15, 20,000 rank. If it is under, you got to go through that checklist that I talked about, right? Making sure that you are, when you receive the item or you're looking at the pictures on eBay, that you're looking to make sure it doesn't have weird pixelations and the graphics off and it's, kind of funky looking, or the eBay seller doesn't have positive feedback, right? Even 96, 97% positive feedback on eBay is a red flag in certain categories. So, for me, when I'm going after a DVD and I'm looking at a couple DVDs right now that I've sold, I sold a Law and Order DVD recently for $42.26, had 10 sales per month. It sold within a couple of weeks. I sold a Doris Day collection DVD for $56.84. Only had five sales over the last month, but I'm looking right now, there's only one FBA seller and then there's like 6 FBM. So if you're FBA, you're going to sell that very, very quickly, even though this item's only selling like on average 5 times a month according to Seller Amp. I sold that in less than a month. I sold a Tarzan collection item. This was a 23,000 rank DVD. It was selling faster. I'm looking at my screen now. Sorry, you won't be able to see it. Had 17 sales per month. I sold that item for $89.52, and that item only took a week to sell. Now, that was a little bit faster, but this only had 2 FBA sellers and it was selling a lot faster. So it's kind of like you got to weigh out, you've got to look at the price. Is the price consistent? How many FBA sellers are on the listing? If you're FBM, then you could analyze it a little bit differently. And that's pretty much it. Of course, another thing you could always do is you could go into Keepa, buy box statistics. And one thing that I always like to do is I like to go into the buy box statistics and see what previous, because I'm FBA, what previous FBA sellers were A, winning the buy box at, and B, how the buy box is rotating, because you can look at that, or if you're using Seller Amp as well, you can take a look at this one DVD. I can see that 50% of the time the buy box is suppressed, which means on some of these DVDs that are selling for a lot, Amazon won't be giving the buy box because they don't like the price. But the other 50% of the time I'm looking at this DVD, again, I know you can't see it on the screen, but it's rotating very, very equally. So if the buy box is rotating equally, if it's a consistent price, even if it's selling 2 or 3 or 4 times a month and there's nobody on the listing, or even 3 or 4 sellers, you're gonna sell that pretty quick. And that's what I love about eBay to Amazon, and specifically going after DVDs that are selling like 1 to 5 to 10 times, is they're discontinued, they're not in the stores. I mean, I don't even know if a lot of these DVDs are in the stores to begin with, but like the super popular complete series, the newer stuff of like newer seasons and series and TV shows, there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of price tanking. But when you go after certain items, like another item I just sold was an Alfred Hitchcock, the Masterpiece Collection. I've sold this a bunch of times. Let me take a look here. So I've actually sold this 5 times in the last 365 days for $77, $78.99, $79, $89.99, and $90. So it looks like the price is coming down a little bit on this item, but it's not a super popular item, right? As I look at my screen right now, 73,000 rank, 11 sales over the last month. There are quite a few sellers on this listing, 2, 4, 6, there's 7 FBA sellers, but there's only 5 that are competitive. The other 4 are all priced like super high, so they're not gonna really be winning the buy box. But those are the different things that I'm looking at. And that's one of the things, again, I like with the ranks of, I would say 20 to 30,000 rank up to 125,000 is there's not going to be a ton of competition usually. There's not going to be a ton of price tanking. When you get into DVDs that are 5, 10,000 rank, even if they're real and authentic, there's a lot of price tanking. There's a lot of people coming on the listing with 10, 15, or 20 of them, whether they're fake or they're real, and the price will tank. But of course, at the end of the day, you've always got to be looking at the offer count on the listing, right? As the offer count increases, right, as I look at this Alfred Hitchcock DVD, the offer count used to be at 5 sellers and it was up at $95.99. And now it's at 11 sellers and the price is down to $73. So you see how that correlation works. But again, when you're sourcing with a Replen Catcher, when you're buying DVDs on eBay, I'm typically not touching a DVD unless it's a 50% ROI. And you know, if the item's only selling once a month and there's a couple competitors on it, and I think it might take a couple of months, I'm probably going to want a 70% ROI or an 80% ROI. The faster I think it's going to sell based on the competition, if I've sold it before, is it a replen, the lower I'll accept with an ROI. But the more risk that I feel like I'm going to have with holding on to it for 2 or 3 or 4 months, there's a bunch of competitors, maybe the offer count is up, maybe I'm just not super confident in the item because it's a lead and I've never sold it before, I'm gonna want a higher ROI. So hopefully this answers kind of that question of like, why would I go after items that are only selling 1 to 5 times? And yeah, if you have any more questions, drop a comment down below. And of course, if you want to get started sourcing DVDs from home without having to go to the thrift stores, library sales, if you want to be able to find killer deals like I'm finding all the time and hundreds of others are as well, check out Replen Catcher, right? Replen Catcher is a tool that will essentially find undervalued deals on eBay that sell for a lot more money on Amazon. And the cool thing is you can actually integrate it with your Amazon Seller Central. So you can source from 12 plus categories. And we have a Chrome extension that will pretty much tell you everything you can sell, and you can filter out everything you're restricted on. So you don't have to worry about like filtering through millions of eBay listings. Like without a software, you can take Amazon Seller app and you could scan listings like on DVD, listings on eBay or different categories, but you're gonna have to manually look up every single item if you can sell it. Are you gated, restricted? Replen Catcher does that for you. So with that being said, guys, I appreciate you all. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.